Choices. Life is made up of an amalgamation of hundreds of thousands of millions of billions of so on and so forth, many choices. An infinite and interconnecting web of decisions that led to this equally complex version of you right now. Even now, as you all sit in your seats, you are constantly adding to this branching web of decision. By coming here, added another strand. By choosing to ignore me and browse Instagram instead, added another strand. By liking Becky's photo, but not Jessica's, because she was rude to you in the 8th grade, but you still follow her to prove a point. A whole branch of strands. We as human beings are defined by our actions. So it's completely bizarre to me why in today's society we focus so much on viewing things as choosing a side or limiting ourselves to relating life to a coin. This false dichotomy or one-dimensional thought is so detrimental to the health of our society that it actually limits our ability to make the best decisions for ourselves instead of aiding it. So what's worse is moderates are seen as being a position that's worse than the wrong side. Moderates are seen as cowardly, indecisive, and flippant. Why has the middle ground become such a battleground? How do I remove myself from this limited one-dimensional thought process? How do I effectively incorporate moderation into my own life? These questions are what I came here today to help you answer. And like Oscar Wilde once said, everything in moderation, including moderation. I would like you all to take a nice long look at me. What do you see? Ma'am. What do you see? A guy giving a TED Talk. Great, awesome. And you, sir? What do you see?
I see orange pants.
Orange pants. These are actually khaki, but that's great. Those are all fantastic answers, and I would agree that I am all those things. However, there's so much more to me than just what meets the eye. I am multiracial, African American, Filipino, Slavic, and just a pinch of Native American. I am my school's ASB vice president, which means on a good day, I'm about as powerful as the president, and on a bad day means I'm just a glorified secretary. I am bisexual, which today means I'm just a straight guy trying to be cool and hip, or I'm a gay guy who's afraid of coming out of the closet, because, you know, being bisexual doesn't really count as coming out of the closet. I have a terrible time making the most simplest of decisions. Not because I don't know which option to choose, but because I want to choose all of them. I like long walks on the beach and short walks to my fridge at 2 a.m. I love the sunshine, but I love the pouring rain just as much. And like all of us, I am a complicated and multifaceted person. As you might have guessed by now, I am a moderate, which means that when coming to a wood divided by 2 roads, I take the road less traveled by. Then I backtrack and take the road most traveled by to see what all the hype was about. See, in today's society, it's so bizarre that we focus on creating these labels and limited definitions, but we can break free from that. For me personally, the Oxford Dictionary defines moderation as being the avoidance of excess or extremes, especially in one's behavior or in politics. Or as my friends put it, indecisive, people-pleasing, and incredibly annoying. I'm not ashamed of being a moderate, however. In fact, I see it as my greatest strength rather than a weakness. This whole mess can be tracked back to childhood, like most things in our life. As a kid, I struggled to fit into cliques in middle school. I never felt black enough to hang out with the black kids, and I never felt white enough to hang out with the white kids. The smart kids seemed too boring, and the cool kids seemed too invested in things I just didn't care about. I realize now it's making a sweeping generalization about those people, but in the moment, I still couldn't help but feel isolated. It took moving here to Oregon in the middle of my freshman year to realize the reason I didn't fit into just one group was because I fit into all of them. I was able to hang out with the speech and debate people and the baseball people without feeling tied down or while still remaining authentically me. Then that's when I got to thinking. This idea of feeling like I needed to fit into one place wasn't limited to just social groupings as a kid. Today's society is so focused on creating labels, groups, and limited definitions that we don't even realize we're living in a world surrounded by dichotomy, aka a sharp division of things or ideas into contradictory parts. So with humanity being such a complex organism, the question is, why do we have such a limited and static view of it? Some psychologists hypothesize that we compartmentalize in order to better organize and digest the world around us. It's similar to illusion images, like this one here. For some of you, you may see a furry rabbit. However, others in the audience may see a duck. Now that I've pointed these two outcomes out to you, your brain will be able to freely switch between viewing the duck and the rabbit. However, your brain has a difficult time trying to place the duck and the rabbit in the same place at the same time. It's understandable. We break down elements in our lives in order to better understand them. However, by focusing too much on our own definitions and our own views, we begin to create conflict. Sometimes we get so caught up in our own understanding, we don't realize another person's understanding just may be different. It's like believing from the bottom of your heart that this image is of a goblet, and that's the only thing that exists. However, another person may see two faces, and that's what they strongly believe to be true. Neither of you want to admit you're wrong because that's what your brain has grounded you to reality with. Now, this is what leads to a conflict. Your brain begins to panic when it's questioned or when its tethered is shaken. But that's because we're more likely to be stubborn than to accept that there's an infinite maelstrom of possibilities and perspectives. So, the question is, how do we break free from this limited, one-dimensional mindset? Well, the short answer is to simply change your thinking. Expand your view of the universe and life itself. The long answer, since this is a TED Talk, is a little more complex. This can be applied on the small scale, such as day-to-day decision-making. Obviously, if someone offers you a kale salad or an ice cream sundae, you can't always pick the kale sundae. That's both gross and unrealistic. What I implore all of you to do is to make a decision that's best for you. So maybe you take the ice cream sundae, but later you do a nighttime jog to burn off some extra calories. Or maybe you take the kale salad somehow and you reward yourself with a night in where you do absolutely nothing, and that's okay. Maybe you do take the super gross kale sundae. Maybe this whole hypothetical is pointless because you're not even hungry. The point is to think critically beyond what is placed directly in front of you. This critical thinking can be applied on the large scale, such as in life, viewing it more as a spectrum as opposed to dedicated colors. I personally like to relate this to the Chinese belief of the yin and yang, seeing the good in the evil, the black in the white, and vice versa. The whole wheel itself representing life. But what's also important to consider is while on this journey of self-discovery, understand that everyone else is in the same boat. We're all trying to figure out our own interpretations, and just because that differs from yours doesn't mean yours is wrong or theirs is wrong. They're just different. Now, how are you going to be able to remember all this? Well, just think, why not? Wonder. Think beyond your boundaries. There's more out there than what's directly in front of you. H. How? How did you come to this conclusion, and how can it be different? Why? Yourself. An important person to consider throughout this entire process. What are your values? Never stop. Keep moving, growing, and gathering new information. Never allow yourself to stagnate. Originality. Always utilize it. Always be proud of your uniqueness and your own personal spark. Tolerate. Understand that your opinions won't always be well received by others, and you won't always agree with other people's opinions, but that's okay. Question. Dispute and ponder. There's never just one truth. You're not just a boy, or a Republican, or Asian, or gay. You're not just anything, except authentically you. So go. Like Becky's photo. Go pet your weird duck-rabbit hybrid, and go eat your kale sundae. Because maybe you should see the world beyond just black and white. Maybe we should all just walk a little bit in the gray. Why not? Thank you.